Gentlelady from the 81st.
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to lift the leaves of absence for the gentleman from the 46th, the gentleman from the 71st, the lady from the 79th, and any other leaves of absence that may be before our side of the aisle, other than the gentlelady from the 10th.
Any objections? Hearing none, the leaves are lifted. Gentleman from the 54th.
Thank you. Because it was actually about 15 minutes that I first pressed my button, which would have made it about, I guess, 4:57, 4:56. After I heard, I got an email from the gentleman from the 69th that said, be here by 5 o'clock, so it was 3 minutes to 5. And as I was walking here from caucus, saw that we were actually voting. Again, when you send an email, gentleman from the 69th, that says 5 o'clock, you know, 5 o'clock means 5 o'clock. But once I heard you guys already decided to vote on things, well, then I realized that, you know, why would that happen? And then I'm like, oh, that's right. It's consistent with how everything else has been handled. Like last Friday morning when I was driving to a school business administrators meeting in De Pere, and I turned on the radio, and there was an ad saying, hey, support Governor Walker's budget repair bill paid by the Club for Growth. Well, guess what? I had never been given a bill. I hadn't even been given talking points yet. And I know we're in the minority, but I'm elected the same way you are elected by the same public from the state of Wisconsin, and I deserve better than that. And it's bad enough. It is bad enough that I had to hear it from a radio ad from Washington, D.C., and then show up at a meeting with no details. But in the
Could the gentleman hold his remarks? We request that the gallery refrain from any indication of support or opposition to any of the comments on the floor, so I don't have to clear the gallery, please. Gentleman from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, while we heard that we may or may not get an emergency bill, we may get a repair bill, I found out from the radio, from a Washington, D.C. interest group, what does that have to do with Wisconsin? And then it's 144 pages. And then we get briefed on Monday, and I'm told we're going to vote on it on Thursday or Friday. And then when we ask for public hearings, well, and the public wants to speak out, you cut them off. This isn't how we do things to each other. It's not how things get introduced. And it's just simply not what we do to the public. If you want to jam through a bill, you got to sit through the messy process that is democracy. When we sit there in 4th grade and we learn about Wisconsin government and we learn about U.S. government, we learn how amazing it was that they came together. But we also learned that it was bloody, that people had to fight for it, and they wanted to make it hard to do big things. You're supposed to be a deliberative body. You're supposed to have discussions, and you're supposed to be transparent because the public matters in all of this input. And then, when we keep the hearings going and we honestly look at the bill, it's 144 pages, we find out that there's things like $47 million of federal aid cut. And my city writes me and said, yes, we will have to close our bus system. And when I have an honest amendment to carve that out and I want to get it submitted, we show up here and you guys are going to vote without us 3 minutes before you told us to be here. Are you seeing a pattern here? I find out from the radio, from some group, I don't even know who it is. And then when the public wants to talk, you cut them off. And then when we show up to vote, I am elected. I get it. I'm in the minority. You're right. There's only a bunch of us. But if you want to know why there are 35,000 people here, look at yourself in the mirror. And how about a little respect, at least to your colleagues?
Gentleman from the 62nd.
I cannot believe what we are seeing here in Wisconsin this week. I cannot believe what we're witnessing here. In these times when I feel like we're seeing the most mean-spirited anti-worker legislation that I've ever heard of, and you're bringing out the absolute worst in what you're trying to do to working people in this state, and then to see tens of thousands of people bringing out the very best of what democracy is and what it means. And so what have we seen in a week's time? First, you want to take away people's democracy in the workplace. Then you take away people's democracy and their right to speak at a hearing on a bill. Then you take away the minority's ability to dissent and have a voice. You're in the majority, but being in the majority doesn't mean you get to take away people's freedom. We exist in this state to serve the same people. The same people sent us here, and we swore an oath to ourselves and to our constituents and to the Almighty that we would adhere to certain principles that have long been the foundation of this state and this country. I do not recognize what is happening in this great state. You are in the majority. You get to set the agenda. But we still have the right to dissent. And you cannot silence our right to dissent as long as we draw breath. We have rights. We have rights in this country, and they will be abided by.
Gentlelady from the 81st.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, I've only had the privilege of serving in this body for just over 2 years. When I was elected, the party of which I'm a member became the majority party. And that was a wonderful feeling. A feeling of having a tremendous responsibility placed in you by the citizens of Wisconsin. Not just the citizens who elected you from your own district, but the citizens from everywhere in this state that have placed their trust in you, not only to choose the laws of the state, but to choose your leadership, and the people that will run this body. Now, it was an amazing feeling, and I certainly felt the weight of that responsibility on me, as I'm sure you all did. I remember Inauguration Day. God, it was just a few weeks ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago, because even though I still feel that weight, and it's even greater now because people are paying attention to what we're doing in this body in a way that they never have before. This is absolutely historic. And yet, it seems like members on the other side of the aisle, colleagues, fellow citizens, like somehow you're not feeling that weight anymore. I want you to understand, now that you're the majority, you have the votes. I mean, you have the overwhelming majority of the votes. Your will be done. You are in control. You make the laws. You passed the rules. You passed the rules. These are your rules. You passed the laws. Your will can be done. It is your will to pass this bill. You will pass it. You have the votes. But I ask you, I implore you, you do not have the ability to controvert our process. That belongs to all of us. And that is not something which the majority party owns. Now, it appears that illegal action was taken. Action started happening before the time that we were even scheduled to be in this body. We had members that were asking to be recognized. They were not recognized. This morning, that happened again. That is outrageous, and it is not worthy of us. It's not worthy of any one of you. We may disagree so passionately. I mean, gentlemen from the 38th, we've sparred at many committee hearings. We've gone back and forth. I appreciate your sense of humor. I appreciate your excellent fashion sense, and I mean that sincerely. I love your ties. We're human beings. We can treat each other as humans. We can see the divinity in each other. We can love the fact that we are all engaged in a joint endeavor together. And right now, 100,000 of our fellow citizens are also engaging in this joint endeavor. You will be able to pass this bill if you want to. You do not have to pass it this way. Let's argue passionately about the merits of this bill. Let's argue about the amendments. We want to offer amendments. We want to talk about what's in the bill. I'm sure that you are eager to do that too, because I know that you are coming from a place, a different ideological place, but one of conviction. And I'm asking you, members, gentleman from the 82nd, you're a principled man. And I know that for some of you over there, your hearts are breaking too, because you don't want to do business this way. None of us wants to see this institution and this state take that direction. This is the United States of America. We will disagree passionately. We will raise our voices. We will protest. We will be peaceful. But by God, we will give each other a basic level of respect and human dignity when we disagree. You can win on this, but do not win this way. Do not win this way. I beg of you, reconsider. You will win the vote. Strike the previous action. Let's do this the right way. You can still do the wrong thing, but please, please look in your hearts. Let's do it the right way. Thank you.
If it seems like I'm ignoring you, it's because we have a hell of a queue. Gentleman from the 39th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been a long week, been a long couple days. And obviously we have a job to do, you have a job to do. You guys caucused all day yesterday, caucused all day today. I talked to your leader, had a conversation with him, and said, Peter, I have got to go to the floor and get this bill moving. Let's debate the bill. You're right, I put out a thing at 5 o'clock. Honestly, I didn't think you guys were showing up. We started it out, you showed up. I checked with the chief clerk, there were 2 amendments in there. You know what? You guys are right. You're right. We're going to go back to the amendable stage of this bill. That's what we're going to do. Because you're right. So we have a job to do, you have a job to do. I know your job right now in the minority is to delay. I honestly didn't think you were going to show up. Because your leader started out with what I said, what time do you think you'll be out of caucus? And he said, how's Monday, Fitz? That was unacceptable to me. Sunday or Monday. So I would ask unanimous consent to go back to the amendable stage of the bill.
Gentleman from the 39th asks unanimous consent to go back to the amendable stage of the bill. Any objections?